This split-second reaction from Catherine, the moment she locked eyes with the camera, a gesture from Princess Anne that everyone missed, and how Catherine makes everybody around her feel seen, let's take a look at all three. This was Commonwealth Day Service 2026 at Westminster Abbey, the full ceremonial setting, and for many people watching, this was a deeply meaningful return because Catherine, Princess of Wales, has been through something that would level most people. A cancer diagnosis, months of treatment, a very deliberate, very private recovery. Now, I know some people online spend a large portion of today debating her hat, whether the headpiece was too large, whether it didn't suit the occasion. And none of that matters. Because on this day, three moments happened that almost nobody mentioned, and each one of them tells you something real about this woman. Not the role, not the title, not the wardrobe, the actual person underneath all of it. And two of those moments went completely unnoticed. Welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips. Let's get down to it. So let me start with the arrival. This is William and Catherine entering Westminster Abbey. Now look at this couple. These are two people who have been through cancer scares, through enormous public scrutiny, through 2 years of sustained personal pressure, and they still move in sync. The sheer pace, the mirror composure, the way they're physically approximate without performing it. You cannot choreograph that. Genuine partnership has a rhythm that looks like this, and it exists or not. And Catherine in particular, upright, present, completely composed. This is not someone who is managing the crowd. This is someone who is completely at ease inside herself. The recovery, the physical one and the psychological one, is evident. She is back in full. Now, the first moment, during the service, Catherine is seated, looking down at the program in her hands, completely absorbed for just a second. Pay attention to what her eyes do when she lifts her head. She catches something at the very edge of her peripheral vision, and it takes her roughly half a second to register what it is. Arthur Edwards, one of the most veteran royal photographers alive, a man who has been documenting the Windsor family for over 5 decades, and the moment that recognition fires, watch the sequence that follows. The first signal is a closed-mouthed smile, quiet, private. Not the public smile, the one that deploys for crowds and balconies. This is a smile that precedes a greeting, then the verbal acknowledgement, thank you, and only then the full expression, both lips parting, full cheek lift, and the Duchenne markers activating at the outer corners of the eyes, the lines that you physically cannot fake. In body language, we call this a graded emotional display. The signal arrives in the stages because the feeling arrived in the stages. Because perform warmth skips straight to maximum. It has no reason to build. Authentic warmth escalates because it's following an actual emotional event rather than a decision. And then watch what happens after. She looks to her left, releases the expression, and her resting face, the face she carries when she is not performing anything for anyone. This is still warm, still open. Some people's neutral is a closed door. Hers isn't. And that is character. That is not training. Now, the second moment, and I generally promise you, almost nobody caught this one. William is arriving and greeted Princess Anne. 2 kisses, both hands, warm, familiar, very affectionate. And then Anne turns to her right, toward Catherine, who is off frame. Now, pay close attention to Anne's face. She blows her a kiss, a full mwah, right into the ear toward someone she very clearly adores. And this is Princess Anne we are talking about, one of the most composed, most still-spine, most no-nonsense women in the entire royal family. A woman whose default expression could stop a charging cavalry. And here she is, practically beaming, blowing kisses like your favorite aunt at a family reunion. That is not a gesture Princess Anne distributes casually. That is warmth she reserves. Catherine then greets Anne's husband and places a hand gently on Anne's arm. Understated warm, no theatrics, and Anne's entire body language in this exchange is different, softer, less guarded. You could almost use the word giddy. I never expected to say those words about Princess Anne, but here we are. And by the way, body language analysis is not just something I do on YouTube. If you need a professional read on a negotiation, a deposition, an interview, or any situation where you need to know what someone is really saying, that's what I do. Click the link in the description and let's talk. Now, I have to include this bonus clip. I have no choice. This is the most perfectly timed near disaster I have seen at a formal royal event in recent memory. During the service, performers were making their exit wearing these enormous ceremonial flower costumes. The kind with a wingspan that looked like it could safely land a small aircraft. One of them exiting swings just a little too wide. And keep an eye on Catherine. She barely escapes a funny accident by several centimeters. And reaction? The kind of what happens before you can decide not to laugh. The kind that goes straight past composure because it is funnier than composure can handle. That is not the Princess of Wales in that moment. That is a person. And those unscripted moments, the accidental ones, the ones that cost nothing, are the ones that, well, that build that charm. And that brings us to the third moment. The one I mentioned tends to go overlooked. It's not dramatic. It will not make the front page. But once you see it, you will see it every time. Watch what Catherine does here as she's moving through the Abbey. She's slightly behind William, who is engaged with someone ahead. She is not the center of his beat of the ceremony. There, she turns her entire head, not a polite sideways glance, not the slight acknowledgement you give someone when you don't want to fully commit your attention. No, a complete rotation, direct eye contact, and then a lean, subtle, just enough to close the physical distance and send the nonverbal signal that says, you have my complete attention right now. Not some of it, but all of it. And she does this with everyone. The Archbishop, the official beside him, the staff member who steps removed from the main conversation. Nobody gets a half measure. And watch this, right before she steps into the vehicle, two gentlemen, maybe 5 seconds of contact. That's it. She turns fully, she smiles, and you can see the precise moment they realize she's actually directing her attention at them. This is not a technique, this is a habit. The habit of someone who has decided, consciously or otherwise, that every single person who steps into their vicinity deserves to feel seen. This is what gets buried under the headlines about what she wore and whether her hat was proportional to her school. What the body language shows, event after event, is someone who has mastered the difference between performance and presence. Performance is executing the correct behaviors in the correct sequence. Presence is actually being there, actually registering the human beings around you as human beings, not as part of the backdrop of your public role. And today, from the greatest smile at Arthur Edwards to Princess Anne, completely forgetting her composure, to the quiet and consistent habit of turning fully toward every person who crosses her path, Catherine was present, completely, every second of it. 3 moments from today that almost nobody talk about, and a smile that arrive in stages rather than all at once. A princess who turned into an aunt for 2 seconds, and the habit of making everyone in her orbit feel seen, no matter how briefly they're standing there. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Much love and bliss.